How? Okay.
Awesome. All right, here we go.
All right. I'm looking, see when people enter. Nobody's here yet. I don't know if you could see that on your end, but
I don't, because now you're the host. If you want to make me co-host so I can help you with that in case I see people coming in, but so far it's just us three. And that's okay.
it's all right. I have the participants window open, so when they pop in, they should pop in.
Okay.
And then I could just approve or whatever it's called, accept.
Yeah, so if we want to give it just like 2 more minutes, what do you think, Shirley? Just give it like 2 more minutes in case someone hops on and we get started.
Yeah, whatever you want, just fine. I'm good.
Yeah, we'll just give it another minute. It's 12:03. We'll give it another minute and then we'll get started. And if someone joins, mid session, we'll work with it and just welcome them in. Yeah, the great thing about this, Shirley, like I mentioned, is that obviously we're recording it and then we can use it for future marketing. I don't know. Do you have a YouTube channel too? Yeah.
We do. The company has one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking to build mine now with this. All the things.
I know.
So many things.
That's a hypnotic language pattern.
It is?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
All the things, so many things. It's very ambiguous.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't do that on purpose.
I love it.
All right, Vanessa, let's do it. Let's go into the intro. Let's get the party started.
Let's get the party started. All right. I have the participants thing open here just in case, so
awesome.
We will get this party rocking and rolling if anybody comes in. All right. So hello, everybody. Welcome to the Simply M Spotlight. My name is Vanessa Castillo. I'm the founder and CEO of the Rich Girl Mindset and your co-host this afternoon. The Simply M Spotlight is a special new series where we will feature special guests on various topics that will enrich, educate, and inspire the community here at Simply M, the movement. We are thrilled to have you join us today as the founder and CEO of Simply M, the movement, and your Simply M Spotlight host, Keri Udbe, will be interviewing elite trainer, coach, and CEO of New Code Experience, Shirley Solis, on how to identify and avoid incongruent goals. Teddy was born in Cuba and raised in Miami, Florida. She has a double bachelor's in dance and psychology from the Florida International University, and has facilitated movement and creative writing workshops for 15 years. Her desire to bring the healing and transformative power of music and movement has birthed her new community, Simply M, the movement. Now, a little about Simply M, the movement. They are on a mission to change the way women use and incorporate creativity, dance, and music in their daily lives by providing virtual and in-person dance classes that are simply easy, simply fun, and simply inspiring. Now, our special guest for today, Shirley Solis, is a visionary with a focus on social entrepreneurship. She's a published author, speaker, marketing, and international business expert, certified classic code NLP trainer, and new code NLP practitioner. Shirley leads New Code Experience, whose market includes North America, South America, and Europe, and in the area of leadership, sales, and marketing, social intelligence, emotional intelligence, and partner relations. She invests countless hours to the expansion of innovative and congruent leadership on the planet. Wow. Amazing. I am so blessed and honored to be alongside these two powerhouse women today, and we hope you gain what you need from this chat. Now, let's get this interview party started. Should anybody have any questions at all, please leave them to the end and we will address all questions. The interview portion should last about 20 minutes with a 10-minute window for Q&A. If you're on lunch break, please feel free to eat your lunch as you listen in. And if you're not shy, please show your face and show love whenever you hear something that resonates with you on some level. On behalf of Simply M spotlight, we thank you for being here with us this afternoon, and let's get this party started. All right, Ketty, take it away, girl. I'm excited.
Me too. Thank you for such a great intro. And I will definitely echo what you just said. Wow. Shirley, your credentials, what you do, your experience, your reach is amazing. It's impressive, but I've been impressed with you from the day that we met. So before we dive into our topic today, I just want to let everyone know just a little bit about how you and I connected. Do you remember that?
I do. I remember we had coffee in Starbucks, right? That's the usual common ground meeting place. At least it was back then. Now there's more options.
Yeah.
Yep. And a mutual friend told us about each other, and she just insisted, because obviously we have very common values, and these very common values are around personal development, around helping other people, at that time specifically helping women evolve. And you had these great ideas that I guess you had shared with this friend, and she just thought that we should meet. So I think I was also equally impressed to have heard the multi-talented skills that you have, not just with project management, with real estate, and this area of psychology and movement. And so I was excited to hear about it and to hear your dream, which now has come true.
Thank you, Shirley. Yes. And that's why I'm so excited to share how we met, because that's why Simply M is so close to my heart, because it's exactly about that. It's about a community of women connecting, like-minded women with the shared values, like you said, and being an entrepreneur. And I know you would agree with me, can be very lonely. It can be very lonely. Yeah. You know, the long hours, the coming up with ideas that you're not sure how you're going to make them turn into goals that then turn into things that get done and dreams that come true or what have you. And so when you and I connected through this mutual friend, she kept insisting to both of us that we needed to meet, because we both had that entrepreneurial spirit, the personal development, the business development, the helping other people, sharing our gifts, and that's really what the Simply M community is all about. Now, I do know that Simply M would not have come about if I hadn't first had the idea, then kind of put things pen to paper, if you will, or sometimes have it remunerate in your head a million times until you decide if you have the guts or not. So I want to fast forward to your coaching, because one day I saw on Instagram that you were doing these like radical single interventions, right? Like,
yeah,
not your typical setting in an office or what have you. And so I told you, hey, of course, like, we're friends and you're a coach. I know exactly what you do. I've gone to your workshops. I'm like, I want to do one of those. So let's talk about that real quick, because I think it ties into our topic on goals.
Yeah. So basically what happened was, that year, it was the beginning of 2020. I woke up and I was like, I just want to experience life in a different way. And rather than bringing my clients into an office or into a space that felt like enclosed, I decided to do something called an unconventional intervention. An intervention is basically it's coaching, but it's when you want to work on one specific thing. And in one session, you basically tackle that and you move on, right? And so I started doing these unconventional interventions and started asking people to meet me in different places. Like, we met in the airport, other people we met like with you at the park by the Bay Area. With other people, I would meet at a hotel, but obviously in the lobby, and then we just drive around. I mean, it was just whatever I was inspired or intuitive to work with that particular client. And we met, right? We didn't know what we had, but we had the beautiful sky. It was a January, and we had the beautiful Miami sky, beautiful blue with a few clouds there. We were by the bay in Coconut Grove area, for those of people who are watching from Miami. And here you start telling me this, you had a situation you wanted to work with. Well, what happened with that was I got to the point where, when I am a coach, and I feel like we should do this with every area of our lives, it's about being our best selves. And so I love to have fun, and I feel like one of the main things that people really need is to get outside of their box. So up to that point, we had fun, we solved the main issue, whatever. But then I was like, what can I do that will totally get Ketty out of her box, right? And so what we did, I don't know if you want to tell them, but
we got in the water.
we didn't just get in the water. What we do first?
We got in, stripped to our underwear and got in the water.
Yes. She was like, what are you doing? And I'm like, we're just taking our clothes off. And she's like, we're going to get arrested. And I was like, I'll just tell them that I was trying to help you from committing suicide. And so we were like bra and underwear jumping into the bay, the Miami Bay. And it was there. Right. I remember there was this gorgeous house, you know, like a canal next to this beautiful area, very private. You're swimming in this cold water because it was January.
Yeah.
And it was so refreshing. And you're just like a part of you that I had never seen came out.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was the cold. I don't know if it was the crazy. I don't know what it was. You just like, what I really want to do is boom. And you told me about Simply M.
Yep.
Because you had birthed it inside.
Yeah, I had. And, you know, it is a big deal. Like you're telling the story now. I remember floating in the water, and you're right. It was a beautiful blue sky and I see the sun, and something about the water just felt like I was renewed. It was like exhilarating. And truth be told, up to that moment, the only person I had shared this with was my therapist, because I really was feeling a pivot was needed in my life. And I was working through it with her, but I even took forever to even tell her. So it was like this little secret. And then I just told you. So you were like technically the first person, the first friend. Today, that's why you're the first speaker. I mean, it's just been, yeah. And it was that style that you took that I saw you doing in your stories and in your posts. And I was like, this voice just whispered to me and said, you know, I want to try that with Shirley, like as a client. That looks like fun. And you're right. I came with one topic and it was like, no, that's not it. And then boom, because you said, let's do this crazy thing.
Yeah.
Tuesday on top of that.
Yeah. Magic just happened. It's like when Ketty went in, she got baptized and she came out, and then like Simply M was birthed, you know, and,
yes.
And you came out with a totally new energy. You came out like no filter. I mean, you're normally very extroverted, very out there, but this was just like a new power. I could see it. I could feel it. You were radiant. You were just beaming with light in a completely different way. And I feel like it was the power of being able to speak your passion into the world, give it that name, because you already had a name for it. You already had seen it. Right. And, you know, and then some time passed, like we celebrated that, whatever. And there's one thing about my clients, they cannot tell me something they're going to do without having a consequence.
Right. Exactly. I know that too.
And so about, what was it, a year and a half passed?
Yeah, yes. It was close to, maybe like a year and a couple months. Yep.
A year and a half passed, and I was like, okay, you know, I'm waiting for Simply M to actually, okay, we know it was born, but like now we need to launch. So I did something else that was really crazy. I threw you into the pool again. And I said, I think it was around March, May, very little time. My birthday is in July 1st. And I said, Ketty, I want to do a Simply M party for my birthday. And you're like, what? I'm like, yeah. We need to do like I want to do a Simply M party. I didn't know what Simply M was in details. I had never seen Simply M, but I knew you and I know you. And I was like, whatever she does, it's going to be a blast. And so I invited all my friends, and you got to work in decorating that beautiful studio. And you're like, oh, but here's this. I was thinking we would just do something small. No, you went all out. Like you did your studio. It was an official launch. And that is really when the world began to know Simply M. And I was thrilled. We all dressed up as Madonna 80s look, right? I have the crazy bow and the whole thing. And we all showed up and we had an absolute blast. And I fell in love with the Simply M concept. I mean, I was in love with it before, but then I became in love with what I could see it could do, with your style of dancing, with the fact that we didn't have to be perfect. We didn't have to have the perfect bodies. We could just move and have fun, right? Yeah, it was a blast. Thank you.
No, thank you. It was a blast. I have the most amazing pictures of all the ladies like holding hands and raising their hands and just these beautiful poses. And it was amazing. And that was the launch. So, you know, I think us sharing this story about our interactions, your experience with me regarding Simply M and all of that, the peeling back off of the clothes to jump in the water is like peeling back the layers, right? Of like, what's the goal and diving in. And you're right. There was that time in between, even still, where I would have, I don't know, hiccups or hesitations, frustrations, whatever. And that's what we're talking about today, because you're the expert. Like you said, you know how to set your clients up so that they really look at the things they need to look at. You ask the hard questions, you know, you really guide your clients. And I want you to share with us what this concept is about incongruent goals, because that beating ourselves up or doing the wrong thing is what keeps us from our dreams. And to me, it's like not acceptable. I want everyone to fulfill their dreams.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for Simply Em and for you and your team to giving me this opportunity to share about this very important topic that's my name. That's, you know, that's a name I put to this concept, the incongruent goals. And how did this basically come about? And I'll tell you a little bit about that. So back in 2019, I had been married for 25 years to the father of my children. And the truth is that marriage had always been really difficult. It had been hard. Long story short, I go on a trip, on a work trip, and I meet someone else. Now, to be fair, I did tell my ex, I said, look, I'm going to be going out with other people. I just don't know if I need to find that the grass is greener where I'm at or whatever. But I said, I'm just going to go out and meet other people because this is just isn't working. So with that agreement, if you could say, I do meet someone else and I fall madly in love with this other person in a matter of weeks. I mean, you know, it's kind of like the movie where you encounter, say what?
I was gonna say eat, pray, love.
Yeah. It literally feels like an eat, pray, love, you know, moment. I was in Portugal in this beautiful place. You know, this woman is married. She's got 6 kids. Her whole life is around family, and boom, she meets the love of her life. And so what happened is I did start a relationship with this other person. It was a quick relationship, if you would. It was a relationship of literally, it lasted 2-3 weeks. I come back to the States, and I'm like, okay, I got to work on my marriage again, you know? And, but in that process, I was like, something's off. You know, I've been trying to work on my marriage for 25 years. And I literally heard a voice at one point that said, if you stay in this marriage, look at where you'll be in another 10 years. And I saw myself at 54 years old, arguing again, continuing to still need therapy, continuing to work on something that was really just not meant to be. And I said, I'm done. So anyway, long story short, at the end of, 4 months, I was divorced, took some time off, but today I am married to the man of my dreams. And so what does this all have to do with congruency? Well, it has to do with congruency because even though I ended up meeting the man of my dreams, the process was not clean. Basically, It was incongruent for me to have been in a relationship and then to have started a new relationship at the same time. And I started looking at this concept of congruence and looking into what does congruence really mean, and exploring that we have a way of being that's natural and easy for us. And that anytime that we walk outside of that path, we're being incongruent with ourselves. And that's what happened. I really was being incongruent. And yes, I did meet the man of my dreams. And I'm thrilled that this happened this way. But in the process, I did cause a lot of pain. And I made probably things very difficult. And I feel like the purpose of it all, besides so many things that I've gained and that I've lost, was to learn this valuable lesson of congruence. Now, I continue to ask myself what congruence meant, and like I said, it's kind of like you have an ideal way of being, like your essence, like who you are is defined, and you have to have a lot of self-awareness to be able to identify that. But once you identify that, we can be either on that path or we can be sideways to that path, even though it may feel slightly off. And that's when I realized that so many times we have a goal that we feel like we're on track for, but that if an area of our lives is incongruent, or if that goal that we want to achieve, some of its parts are incongruent, meaning not aligned or not on track, then things don't necessarily flow and they don't necessarily work out the way we want. And if they work out, they'll work out, but there's going to be a lot of resistance. So if you don't mind, let me give you an example of what that would look like. Okay. So I had one girl that told me one day, she says, I really want to be a fashion designer. And I said, okay, well, great. And she's thinking something's wrong with me because I want to be a fashion designer, but I just don't sit down and sew. And I was like, okay, tell me more about that. And she's saying, yeah, I should be sitting down and I should be sewing. And I said, well, is that what a fashion designer does? She says, well, kind of. And I said, well, tell me more. What would a famous fashion designer do? And she said, well, a famous fashion designer would design. And I said, so do you think sewing is part of becoming a famous fashion designer? And she says, it's a part of it. And I said, yeah, but what I'm hearing you say is that you need to sew every day because you're the one that has to be making the clothes.
Right.
And she goes, yeah. And I said, well, you're not sewing because that particular activity isn't congruent with your bigger goal, which is to become a fashion designer, right? You hear it? You see it?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, but it was like, she thought that sewing was part of becoming a fashion designer, but it was incongruent. So I said, no, you want to become a fashion designer, you design. And when you really get congruent with the fact that you want to design, you'll sew when you need to, but you really need to find a team or at least another person who's going to do the everyday sewing.
Yeah.
And she was like, whoa, and just like that, I've seen so many clients who have a goal, whether it's starting a business. I mean, in coaching, I see it all the time, and I'll end with this. It's like they'll say, oh, I want to start a coaching program, or I want to become a coach, and I want to have a group program. And I'll say, well, what would be the intention of having a group program? Well, because I want to leverage my income. I don't want to work so many hours. And I said, but do you like working with a group? Well, not really. I prefer to work one-on-one. And I'm like, well, that's not congruent then. You're going to struggle to try to create a group program when you're not happy with working in a group program. I mean, there's going to be other ways that you can leverage your one-on-one to create the revenue and the passive income that perhaps you're trying to create. So in essence, basically the idea of incongruent goals is looking at our goals and making sure that not just the goal itself, but that the way to accomplish it is congruent with who you are. Does that make sense?
It does. It really
100%.
does. Sometimes people will hear that and it could become confusing, right? Because, and I'm just here, also this is me just sharing the same thoughts I've gone through, information that comes at us from all different places. And so you hear like, get out of your comfort zone, think out of the box, or this, that, and the other. And so if someone hears that, they might think, oh, but I thought to do big things, you have to also do the things you don't like to do or you're not comfortable with. But from what I'm hearing from you is that's not what you're saying. You're not saying to not get uncomfortable and not think out of the box. What you're saying is really get clear with yourself, get quiet, and ask the deeper questions and peel back the layers about this blanket idea that you have about what you want to do, like the fashion designer idea, or like you said, you getting out of a marriage that no longer served you, that you felt you needed to move on from, and really start to look at all the different parts is what and just tell me if I got this right. Look at all the different parts. What does that look like? What would it take? What are the things that are your strengths? Even if that industry isn't in line with your values, as far as like, for example, some industries, a lot of people are very cutthroat and they, and then, or require certain things that maybe isn't in line with what you believe in or whatever. And it doesn't mean you don't pursue it, but you want to really go into it eyes wide open and say, can I carve a different path that's still in line with my essence and with my values to achieve this goal? Did I kind of capture that?
Yeah, absolutely. And see, with that in mind, what ends up happening so many times is that we have learned that we have to push through. I think that was the personal development of the 80s and 90s, it's like push through. And we've already learned to push through. So our society in the United States already has that. But if we look at society and the way the Eastern world or Europe or Latin America, the way they're doing things isn't necessarily the American way of pushing through. So many times, the way they do things in the East is precisely looking for the path of least resistance. And so in my case, as I set the objective of becoming a healthier individual, if I would have said, well, I need to go to the gym like everybody else does, because that's the traditional thing, then guess what? That wasn't congruent with me. So the bigger goal was becoming a healthier individual. So I had to feel out and identify what were those things that felt like I was having fun, but didn't feel like hard, because going to the gym and working out with weights in this season of my life felt hard.
Yeah.
But going out into the middle of Biscayne Bay with a paddle board, and it felt fun. So I was like, when I'm doing things that are outside and there's movement, I'm enjoying them a lot more.
Yeah.
There was a time where weights worked, but I'm not thrilled about them now. And so with that, I just got aligned. I got aligned with what works for me and became congruent with a path that felt like Shirley in this season of her life. And so I guess it's all of that you said, including the fact that we have to look at where do we want to go and the path that we're going to get there. In that, there will be some things that we do out of our comfort zone. Like now I go to yoga at 6:45 in the morning every day. Let me tell you, 30 minutes of a hot sauna in yoga it's out of my comfort zone. Stretching my little calves and behind isn't like the most, fun all the time, but there's a pleasure about it that I can't describe. I just love it. And so that's congruent with me in this season of my life. It feels good. It feels natural to me. And it's going with the path of least resistance.
And, I do want to say this is that also what's coming through, especially now with these additional points, is that the more you are aware, self-aware, and you accept, right, and you love what those things are about yourself, and you align with that, I think that actually gives you more courage to then maybe try some stuff that's a little out of the box, but still in your wheelhouse, like you said, right? Like it feels good when you're doing it, versus you're pushing against the grain. You're really trying to, put a circle into a square peg or whatever. And then it just generates a lot of anxiety and fear and pushback within yourself. And then it becomes that vicious circle where you're like, you see, I'm not disciplined. I don't have what it takes. And then the beating of yourself up, begins, which
exactly.
We've all been there.
And a big part of the work that I have to do with the person when they first show up is getting rid of that guilt. And it's like, there's nothing wrong with you. You've just been trying to do it the wrong way, in a way that's incongruent for you, but there's really nothing wrong with you. You're like a perfectly fine, awesome, amazing human being, and I think so much of what the personal development industry has done in the last, 30 years has been like, there's something wrong with you because you're not doing it this way, because you're not, and it's no, I think we need to put a bigger trust on people, and people need to put a bigger trust in themselves and the fact that they do have all of the resources inside to make things happen.
Yeah. And I want to pull Vanessa into the conversation here for a second too, and bring it full circle. So one of the reasons that I hesitated so much, Shirley, from when I admitted to what I wanted to do, and then, you telling me, come on, let's put an event together, was the social media. Okay. So when I created my first business, property management, no social media. I didn't use it, still didn't, for personal reasons. And that was like, I don't know what to do. I don't even know where to get started. Wasn't in my wheelhouse. And that was really holding me back. And then I connected with Vanessa. I connected with another woman who connected me with the social media team that I have now, and Vanessa with the branding. I told her my idea of the spotlight. If I wouldn't have recognized what I love to do and what I don't to accomplish my goal, like you just said, and get congruent with the parts that I am in alignment with, like I wouldn't have any posts right now, because I was terrible at it. And I remember telling myself, I'm not cut out to start this business with this new social media thing. So you're totally right. Like I've seen it myself in my own examples. And Vanessa, you see it all the time, right? With other
100%. Yep.
You step in and you do the part that most people are like, I hate it, or it's not me, or I just don't want to figure it out. Like there's nothing wrong, right, with saying, my brain doesn't really work that way. Like,
Exactly.
like
Yeah.
she put together these things like the questionnaire and this. I'm like, perfect. Love it.
And it's more the new world. It's a world of collaboration where we don't have to be the lonely entrepreneur or the lonely professional or the lonely mother or the lonely wife or whatever. We really are living in a new era where we're being asked to transform our mind. We're being asked to be more open and abundant. But what the heck does that mean? Right? And it's being abundant in all areas. And the danger, what I want to say, the danger with being incongruent is that when you're living an incongruent life, everything around you is going to be miserable. Everything around you is going to have resistance. Like right now, I have a client who is in a job that she's not getting paid for enough. She already knows that, but she's staying in there. Now, it's not my job to tell her, hey, just quit your job. No, she needs to realize that, right? So she's complaining about how much she's not making. She's complaining about how it's not enough. And I'm like, okay. But see, and so because of that, she's having personal behaviors, certain things in her own personal life and in her children's life that are not working. Because one level of unhappiness in one area, which is basically her being incongruent by staying in a job that doesn't value her and that's not paying her what she deserves and what she knows she can get for that specific function, is taking her to be unhappy in another area and then in another area. And so there's this ripple effect. When the more incongruent we stay in one area, the more of a bigger ripple effect that's going to have all around. And then it becomes a web that we don't know where to start, that we don't know where to start fixing things. And it's all about finding that original goal, that area of incongruence in your life and working on that. And then you'll see how like all of the other areas start being put in order.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that so much because I've seen it in my own life.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so incongruent with my career path. And then the moment that I started lining up with what I truly love to do, what brings me joy, what sparks, creative expression and freedom within myself to share with others. Mind you, I'm still dealing with those things because it's not completely out of my life. I didn't throw out the baby with the bathwater. Right. And I'm good because it's like I've got this congruency, like you said, in this one area that's now actually spilling into other areas that haven't necessarily dramatically changed. It's that I've changed and that I'm aligned now, and now I'm, congruent. And I think if you agree with me, I want to leave the listeners with something important that I know I've had to remind myself. Like, so my mind works with music and movement.
Mine too.
Yes, we have that in common. So I told you, I'm thinking of that Dua Lipa song, Rules, right? New rules. I got new rules. I got them. Yeah.
Yeah.
And because the song, of course, is about her realizing I keep falling for the same guy or the same type of guy over and over again. You got to like make this vicious cycle stop. And I think that lining up with incongruent goals, like you said, because we've heard the message, push through, go big or go home, discipline, willpower, whatever. So that's what we're used to. So we're going to naturally, I know I would default a lot until I kept working at it and retrained my brain. So I think we need new rules, just like Dua Lipa, like 1, like stop and think. Like 2, is this a lot? You'll come up with them, right? And we got to like, but that's what I want to tell folks. It's not a silver bullet, right? It's not like you just heard about incongruent goals and immediately like, no, it's doing it over and over again. Even like about how you eat, like the whole thing with diets don't work. And a lot of it too is because people pick something that's like, let's say all vegetables. Do you like vegetables? No. Like, okay, we
right.
got something else out.
Or you love meat and it's like, well, you don't have to eat it every day, but you could eat it less, like,
right.
Yeah. It's having that self-awareness, like you said.
Yeah. The self-awareness. So I think it's a good thing for people to realize that you're gonna default back to the push through mentality, the willpower, but take the moment and really like write things down and think it through whenever you're ready to really up level an area of your life or go for a goal. Even something as simple as, like, for example, I used to read all the time. And then I would beat myself up, like, I'm not reading anymore. It's so obvious, but it was simple. I'm like, Audible. I'm like, I'm not in congruency anymore with being able to read. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Life changed. Life changed. Yeah.
So I can't, I mean, again, like I can't say it enough, Shirley. I'm so grateful that you are in my life, that you're my friend, that you're such a big influence on me, because you have supported me, you cheer me on. I know you do that for so many other women that you already know, and so many more women that you're going to be meeting down your path. You're so, I'm going to say intense, because you are, like, and I love that about you. You're so intense about anything you do, because you are in congruency. You're the example, and you're doing what God put you on this earth to do. So I'm very grateful for that. I look up to you. I learned so much from you. And I'm so happy that you were my very first guest on the Simply Spotlight. And there's one wish that I have, is that anyone down the road, which is a beautiful thing about technology, that hears this interview and this chat, and it impacts them in any way, to just take one step towards their goal or their dream in a less stressful way, and they can enjoy the process. I think we did our job.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yes. What a great conversation. Love this. Thank you, Shirley. Thank you, Ketty.
Thank you, Ketty.
Vanessa. So, well, Shirley, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Can you tell us, so we can include it in the chat, because it will stay on the recording, how other ladies can find you, follow you, hire you, get to know you?
Yeah, absolutely. I love to stay in touch if anybody needs, whether it's long-term coaching or whether it's one-time intervention. That's one of the areas of business that I do now. In the main company, our New Code Experience, what we do is we certify and train leaders and coaches with the most innovative technologies to create changes in people that are radically fast. And in that process, as I leave you, you can definitely find me in the Shirley Solis on Instagram. You can also look for New Code Experience, New Code XP, and connect with us there. And of course, you can reach out to Simply M, and they can find me as well. Our website is newcodeexperience.com. And I think I want to leave everybody with this question, like, just how do you find that incongruent goal? Find that one area of your life where you're not feeling happy, where you're feeling uncomfortable, where you're feeling like something's not working, like you're pushing through. And take a step back and see yourself from the outside and observe yourself in that situation and say, what would I tell her if I were in her shoes, right? What would I tell my friend there, speaking about yourself, and identify those key points. And from there, you can begin to take action. Okay. All right. Thank you so much for having me here. Thank you, Vanessa. Thank you, Ketty. I hope that you guys have a great day.
Thank you too.
Take care. Bye, everyone. Thank you for joining us.
Bye.
Bye.